Hello. Some changes have recently been made in Daybreak. I felt like making a video to speak on them a little bit, and I decided, hey, for this video, I'll talk in it, because if I just type out a bunch of stuff, it's just gonna be reading, and I don't want to just make my video a bunch of text, so I'm speaking for this one. If you haven't heard my voice before, this is what I sound like. Hello. And yeah. So in this video, I'm just gonna be like going over a couple of changes, give my thoughts, opinions on them. If I disagree with them, maybe some criticisms. And before the video starts, just keep in mind this is just my opinion, and I just like talking about the game. In the end, whatever changes happen don't really matter much, but you know, it's just something I like talking about, so I'm just gonna talk about it. Don't like take this like too deeply. I'm just talking. Anyways, on to the first change I wanted to talk about, which is the new revive shield. Now, I kind of don't like this change because it just makes things a little more difficult for killers. The main reason why they made this change, or literally the only reason, was it was just made as a solution for the farming problem, where people would revive right in front of the killer and get the person they're reviving farmed, killed immediately. And I understand that is annoying to go against, but I feel like they could have like dealt with the problem in a better way without kind of making things more difficult for killers, which I will get into later. But right now, I'm just gonna speak on it, like about the shield. A response I saw for some of the backlash about this change was that it's a rare occurrence. It's not going to happen all the time. The conditions for the shield to actually come into play are not ones that are satisfied very often, which I do agree with. But although it is a rare occurrence right now, with them implementing a mechanic that will make it an actual viable tactic to heal in front of the killer, it's just going to encourage more people to do it. And although it still isn't gonna be something that happens all the time, it's still being encouraged with this, so it's not gonna be as rare of an occurrence. But their main solution for killers is just to go for the person that is reviving, which makes sense. If you can't kill the person that's being revived, just kill the reviver. And although I do kind of agree with that, there's some situations where it's just a little more difficult than just going for them, because you know this game has a lot of thin walls, thin vaults, thin fences, all that kind of stuff. There are many things you can revive people through, and if you're on the other side of something, the killer can't just walk through the wall. They gotta go around it, you know? And it's kind of inconvenient, and some areas on the map, it's a little difficult. I'll throw up some examples in editing, like maybe the perched in fences, you know, near that Diner Infinite. You're gonna heal through those fences. A great example is Camp Clearwater's main cabin. You can heal through the kind of fence balcony thing. It's not as easy as just killing the reviver sometimes. So although, yeah, this isn't something that's gonna always happen, you're not always gonna be getting a shield for the revived, it's still gonna come into play sometimes. And even if the killer's right on top of them, usually the 4-second shield and the 2-second speed boost is enough for the revived survivor to get into a loop or something like that, you know? Get into a safer spot, which just makes the killer's life much more difficult when they're faced with those situations. Another reason why I think this is a bad change is it kind of kills Arlo. There's not really any reason to play him now. Of course, side note, play whoever you want, play whoever you like, whoever you enjoy playing. In the end, who really cares about who's good or not? But like, if we're talking about the meta, which I just kind of like want to speak about right now, it's kind of pointless to play Arlo, because they've essentially given every survivor at base kit Arlo's ability, and although it is toned down a little, it's still the same thing, and it can still provide the same value that Arlo provided. Thing is, Arlo in the first place, he was never, in my opinion at least, never a really great character, because his ability was very niche. They themselves said it. The conditions for the new shield to come into play are the same as Arlo's abilities conditions, which makes it, in their words, a rare occurrence. And even when it did come into play, it wasn't like game changing. It was something that rare of an occurrence, you would expect it to do something like game changing, but it really didn't. Its value the value that it provided was not proportionate to its rarity. And that's even more the case now with the new shield, because most of the value Arlo provided was just being able to shield right as they came, get to a loop quickly, and, do whatever you need. But now any survivor can do that. Those are basically just the reasons why I think this change wasn't that great. Of course, this isn't like completely horrible. This isn't killing the game. I just think it was a kind of bad change. Earlier, I mentioned that I think there are better solutions to this, and the main one I want to speak about that I think would have been better is just to give down survivors the ability to disable them being revived, so that they can just press a button, boom, they can't be revived, which I think would solve not just the farming problem but many other problems. First off, the farming problem, if they're being revived and the killer is there, at any point they could just hit disable revive, so they won't be revived right in front of the killer, which stops them from being farmed, which that literally just fixes the solution right there. It doesn't make it any more less difficult for the killer. It just makes it so that the down survivor has control over whether or not they get revived. So they can literally just prevent the problem themselves. Another problem this solution kind of fixes is, this is kind of like a small situation that doesn't really matter, but sometimes you gotta take a piss in the middle of a match, and you've seen those people in the match just like, AFK, don't revive me, and they get revived, they come back, see they've been revived and been killed because they've been revived and they're AFK. Those people can just hit disable revived, and when they come back they can just enable it again, which is just like a quality of life change. It's just nice to have, of course it's not a big issue, but it is a small problem that kind of gets solved that some people might have. Some people gotta take a piss mid-game. I feel it. I gotta take a piss all the time. It's just a nice thing to have, Now this last issue that I think it solves is a pretty big one that many people always complain about. It's revive steals. You ever play a mill? People will be reviving right in front of you. Pisses some people off, you're like, why'd you steal my revive? The issue can be solved with this. Because, it kind of depends on the down survivor's competence, but if they realize yo, I can get buffs from this Evelyn and they revive me, they can just hit disable, the person trying to steal the revive leaves, the Evelyn can then revive them, get the buffs, all good. Mill can get his stacks, all good. It fixes that issue, which is a pretty big one that they literally made a change this patch, gave Emil one starting stack to help alleviate this issue he was having, which can be solved if the down survivor is competent and this change gets implemented. This change just solves a few issues that I feel like, of course not the piss one, that one isn't that important, but this one is pretty important. And of course the farming one, which they literally added a revive shield for because it was a problem that people complained about. So I just think this is a good one they could implement instead of the revive shield, because this change doesn't really make anything more difficult for the killer. Really, it just makes things nicer for survivors. I hope this gets implemented. They probably won't see this video, but if they do, hello developers, please add this. I want this. It makes things so much nicer. Please. But that's pretty much all I really have to say about the change. If it passes through, if this becomes like a main part of the game, it is what it is. It isn't like a massive game breaking thing. I feel like they're just a better solution to the problem they tried solving, which does get solved with this, but it's just another thing that killers have to deal with. Another annoying thing killer mains have to deal with. But yeah, that's it. Now with change, I absolutely love. This change is amazing. It should have been implemented like years ago. The increased timer on vault unblocks from 30 seconds. They then changed it to 90 seconds, but now it's at 75, which I think is perfect. The increased vault unblock timer, it literally kills infinites. Because, of course, people may have different definitions, but like the main definition for an infinite is the ability to stay, use one area and loop there for an infinite amount of time, or have the ability to loop there for an infinite amount of time, which is definitely a big issue. And I think infinite should not be a thing in this game. If you commit enough time to a chase, you should be able to catch them, definitely. This vault unblock timer increase, it makes it so that you have to transition. You have to move somewhere else. You can't stay in the same area. Transitions are risky if they're big ones, big transitions. If you don't have an ability, if you have bad chase stats, it's very risky and it's definitely an opportunity for the killer to catch you. This change makes it so committing more time to a chase is more beneficial or more valuable to killers, mainly for killers without much chase potential. Because take for example like an android, usually you just get ran around the same area over and over and over. But if you're able to chase them for long enough, force them to use up enough vaults, they won't really have anywhere to go unless it's a map like Lakeview or something, but usually you'll be able to catch them eventually, which is definitely a good change. It's especially nice for genlock killers, because usually genlock killers don't have much to help them in chase. They kind of gotta rely on genlocks. So being able to commit more time to chase and get more out of it early on will allow them to hold a stronger genlock. Of course, even with this change, although it is an amazing change, kinda gets rid of infinites because the vault unblock timer, it won't allow you to just stay in one area all the time unless you can somehow survive for 75 seconds, which I don't doubt that possibility because of how some loops are in this game, but you can still transition. There's still many maps with strong transitions, and it feels like some of the changes they recently made kind of have this new unblock timer in mind. Because if you think of like Lakeview, they blew a bunch of holes in the walls. Although they might have nerfed some loops, which is definitely a nice thing. With the amount of walls that have been added, or holes that have been added, it just opens up new transitions that you weren't able to make before. Which, if it kind of counteracts the new unblock timer, because although you may not be able to stay in the same area for as long, you now have more transitions available, which kind of just makes the unblock timer not as effective as it should be, but it is what it is. I'll still take it. Anything to help killers catch loopers, I'll take it. It's amazing. I love it. Also, just like Lakeview, how they blew a bunch of holes in the wall, although they nerfed some of Ronok's loops. Ronok, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Or Roanoke, as Ancient says.
Roanoke Woods.
How he pronounces shit so weirdly. Anyways, although they nerfed a bunch of trees and shit, they shortened some of them. They added a bunch of new cabins and trees connecting stuff so you can make more transitions. So for those couple of maps, kind of counteracts the unblock timer, but I mean, it's still, I'll take it, you know. Another thing is that if more nerfs get implemented to maps and stuff with a new unblock timer and more stuff gets changed, loopers may start to enter the meta, like become more viable. Because in my opinion, loopers are hard to put at a high tier. Like whenever you hear people talk about the best characters, never hear about loopers. You always hear about the Irises, the Yvonnes, the them people, the Parkers, you never really hear like nobody says Nathan, nobody says fucking Jun. Who's calling Jun the best character? The new changes, if they continue to make it more difficult for gen rushers to loop, they'll make it more of a reason to pick loopers. Because right now it's still easy as fuck to loop as a gen rusher. You don't really need a looper to loop. So, which I think gen rushers should not be able to survive in chase as long as they do right now. But if changes like these continue to get implemented, it'll make playing loopers more worth it, which I think is definitely an amazing thing. Anyways, that's pretty much all I wanted to really speak about. In the end, of course, just remember, this is just my opinion. This is just me yapping about random shit, because I like yapping about this shit. I just like sharing my opinion. In the end, as I said earlier, this shit really doesn't matter. It's not gonna really, it is what it is. In the end, it is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah. I just like speaking about this stuff, so I just speak on it. Don't take this too seriously. Just me sharing my opinion, Anyways, thank you for watching. I might speak in future videos again. I don't know. Speaking in this kind of makes me feel more confident speaking in future videos, or makes it easier to do it, So I might do it, but yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. Thank you for watching.